I'm Malcolm Vandelst, and this is an excerpt from the Low Self-Esteem Reading Room, aka Loser, a deliberately non-linear, genre-defying text that explores feminine gatherer as opposed to hunter, holistic as opposed to specialized and goal-oriented life experience. If you have nothing to lose, but also nothing to gain because you will never matter, your life becomes open for experimentation. You can write, sing, act, draw, dance, knowing none of it matters. In doing so, you realize that achievement is chimera, the woman, slaves, and exploited. These people are never counted among heroes, yet without them, the heroes don't exist. Heroes are thieves. Don't be a hero. That's from the foreword. Last week, I forgot the intro into the section I read. The week before, I read the poem-type pieces about the Black Lake and the empty sound that becomes Kara's friend. After that, I should have read this intro. The woman, who is Kyle, Stuart, Kara, May, Misty, and Malcolm, glances uneasily at the last couple pages of Piss Alien and Friends. She puts it aside, reaches for the anti-book, Jess, unbinds the tape cassette, which she also puts aside, and opens the book. She skims what Stuart read at the Low Self-Esteem reading night, finding the place where his story about the runaway girl and her dog continues. Next is what I read last week, Jess and Tim waking up outside by a fire, and Jess remembering that civilization had ended when bored, vainglorious world leaders blew up the planet's major cities. Then we continue with this. What Jess knows for sure of the situation. Smaller cities remain intact, but since power and communications infrastructures are centralized in larger ones, these systems are damaged or non-existent even 5 years later. Nuclear power plants across the world are severely damaged. What was left of governments and news agencies assured people that everything was under control, even as they cleared out radiuses of over 200 miles around some plants. In America, these were Indian Point and Callaway. People and animals around the damaged plants became sick and many died. Food became suspect. People with the means to test food continue to find it irradiated. Not that it mattered after a few years. Irradiated meat and vegetables were better than none. People who had depended on the cities that were hit in the US, New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, San Francisco, and Seattle fled. Populations of smaller cities ballooned. Cleanup of the larger cities was slow and fitful. Large armies of men loyal to the world leaders implemented and enforced martial law. However, much larger armies of resistors assembled. The World Army, as the men loyal to the world leaders were called, outclassed the People's Front in weapons, but the People's Front had not only 5 to 10 times more members, they had creativity and heart. The World Army, well-fed, housed, and cared for, partly via the spoils they were allowed to collect from any home or building they entered. The People's Front, asynchronous warfare, battles on their own territory in vast numbers. Countries divided into neighborhoods and districts, policing themselves as best they could. With the number of vagrants and the constant harassment of the World Army, it wasn't easy. Jess had no idea who kept the internet going, nor the power where they existed. She looks at her computer. She's editing photos. A series on Tim, who recently had a run-in with a nail gashing his leg. It isn't deep, Tim's wound, but Jess washed him as best she could with baby wipes and used some of the first aid cream she had scrounged. Then she took pictures. Tim's flesh balloons out from beneath wiry fur, all smeared with the translucent cream. The wound reminds Jess of something as she stares at the image. The dog's flesh shows several shades of pink. There's a little narrow line of red at the bottom, his blood. A pink mountain valley, Jess realizes, with a red river at its base. The cassette tape. Huh, says the woman out loud. She sits up and forward so she can grab the cassette tape. She inspects it briefly, gets up, and walks over to her old stereo. She brushes the dust off the tape player, turns it on, and opens the door. She pushes the cassette in, grabs her remote, and heads back to her chair. Her thumb goes down on the left-facing triangle symbol. Stuart's voice fills her living room. Kyle, I know you really wanted me to work with you on this Annie-book project. I'm sorry, man. It's not that I don't think it's good. I do. I really do. But with trying to get my band off the ground, I write songs with Terry and Scott several times a week now, and with my full-time job and Jenny, it's becoming more and more difficult. I really like what you're doing, brother. Finish it. Write it without me. Or maybe get Brent to help like we talked about before. I know you can do this, Kyle. I have ultimate faith in you. Hell, maybe my band can make songs for you. To any of you who bought the Annie book, I'd like to extend an offer. Bring it to insert name of Stuart's band here, next show, and get in free. Or go to the Annie Book's website for our promo code and get our songs at half off wherever they're sold. Currently on our website and at Scratch Records. Kyle? Hey man, we can sell books for you at our shows. On our website? More than happy to. Seriously. Oh, to everybody listening, definitely watch insert name of Stuart's band here. Site for songs from the Anti-Book. The woman hears as the tape continues. There's nothing else. Fucking hell, she says, pressing the button with the red square on her remote. The sound stops. She brusquely grabs the Annie-Book, Naomi, and flips to where she left off. Holistic and varied. Scene 9. What I want to capture is scattershot, or trajectories that are circular or zigzagged or even all-encompassing and growing outwards. How many people live linear lives? Most I know agitate. Forwards, backwards, sideways. Forwards again, sideways. Try this, try that. See what happens. What about these people? What about their lives? Why do we not love and record our lives as we live them? Start, middle, start, finish, finish, middle, start, middle, middle, middle. End scene 9. Gray Destiny. Scene 14. Jess and Tim are sitting by the fire when Jess hears something. She turns slowly, reaching for a stick she's got poked into the fire. But the sound is nothing. Tim doesn't move. Oh, shit. The goddamn portals. Jess watches the dark as the sound of wind picks up, intensifies, and the colored worms appear. She waves her fire stick at them. She watches the space open. What? Jess sees a room. A bedroom just like she used to have, and an older woman crying. Tim whimpers in his sleep, his body spasming. Can you help me? Naomi asks, suddenly raising her head to look at Jess. What? What? Yes, you, says Naomi, looking at Jess. Jess stares. A hologram is talking to me, she thinks. Help me, Naomi says. How? Get me out of here. Pull me into wherever you are. Naomi stands up. Jesus. Jess scrambles towards the portal, but as she does, she feels a force. The portal is pulling her towards Naomi. Shit, Jess says. I'll have to use a rope or something. Naomi begins rocking back and forth, chanting, take me from this place, kill this world, remove this cage, the invisible mesh, remove this imbalance, give me freedom. Jess comes back with a long rope. Are you sure you want to do this? You could be killed, you know. Yes, I want to do this, says Naomi, her eyes wide and unfocused. Jess throws the rope into the portal, and the rope immediately gets sucked from her hands. You try, she says to Naomi. Naomi grabs the rope and throws it back, but the portal sucks it back towards Jess. Naomi holds on, but the suction rips the rope from her hands. Shit. We should think this through, says Jess. You'll have to tie the rope around your waist and use some padding. Jess and Naomi look at each other. What are they doing? End scene 14.